Hi, this is Melissa Ainslie with 11 Intuitions podcast. I'm recording the second podcast for the day, and I wanted to get to a very touchy, heartfelt episode today. If you cry easily, please get the Kleenex, because you're going to need it. This episode is what happens when spirit speaks before the facts do. My daughter's cats went missing, and on the way to help her, I started hearing from a cat, but I had no idea who that cat was because I had a reading set up as soon as I got there. And until I got to my daughter's house and sat down for an animal communication reading, it wasn't until I realized what was going on. And that's when the pieces finally clicked together. I realized that spirit had been prepping me for what I didn't want to know. The night before, I received a text from my daughter, and it said, "I feel like I failed them, and I'm responsible for their pain." This was on June 29th, 2025. On June 18th, her two beloved cats went missing, Boots and Edith. Somehow the door didn't get latched, the front door, and they got out. She was able to see them both, and they would not come to her. Now, before she got them, they were both outside cats. One of them had gotten out previously, and it was hard for her to get them back in. So she figured, well, they'll just be out for a little bit, but they'll come back. When I got that message on June 29th, I wasn't quite sure if they were going to come back. And I wanted to go help her, but I had my own issues. I had been taken to the ER because I could not walk. Here I am, 50. I had just shaved my legs in the shower, and I lifted up and I had the most horrific pain. I got out of the shower with help, sat down on the toilet, and I literally could not get up. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. And my 13-year-old daughter had to call 911. I was embarrassed. It was awful. But that time really set me down a path of discovery, of listening to spirit. Sometimes when spirit tells you to slow down and you don't listen, they make you slow down. And that was the time. And during this time while I was off, I discovered a lot of things. I started looking for a book editor and found one, but I wasn't able to go help my daughter search for her cats. I wasn't able to walk. I wasn't able to drive. But this day, the day after I got her text, I was going to a doctor's appointment 45 minutes away, the opposite direction of her home. And I felt better. I knew I needed to drive. I felt better. And I told her, I have an appointment 45 minutes away. As soon as I'm done, I'm driving straight to you, which I did. But I have a paid reading. I've got an interview with a book editor. I've got a student. I've got 2 hours. We can go have dinner. And then I've got more students. And then I'm free the next day. But I'm just letting you know that this day I'm fully booked, but I'm there for you. I just want to be there for you. And she said, okay. But I could feel her desperation. And the day before I got that text, I felt one of her cats slipping away. And I told her, get off the couch and go make flyers and put them all over the neighborhood. Someone's seen your cat. And so she did. She did find out that they had seen one of her cats. And throughout this time, I could feel her cats. I could sense where one of them was. I could tell her what I was seeing, and she would be able to walk around the neighborhood and send me pictures. And what I saw was where people had seen her cats. So we knew we were on the right track. When I was driving back from the doctor's appointment, this is usually what happens when I have a reading coming up. I'll have either a spirit talk to me, give me information about the reading, but this one was an animal communication reading that I was having, and I was running a little bit late. I had messaged my assistant and said, please let them know I may be late. Traffic is a little heavy today. And I had a cat come through, and I was like, you're here for your owner. That's so sweet. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to be there right on time. It looks like I'm going to be on time. So just hold on. I was having fun listening to music and singing and everything. I'm a big Metallica fan, so I just listened to that. I turned the music back up, but assured the cat that, going to be on time and you get to talk to your owner when I get there. Well, I got there. Had 20 minutes to spare, gave my daughter a hug, said, honey, I'm so sorry. I have a reading. Went to the bathroom, got into the office, got on the reading. Just a few minutes ago, I watched the recording of the reading, and if it did not make me cry again. So I get on the call and I tell the lady, let me look at the transcripts and everything. And so I tell her, I'm reading this word for word. I had an animal come through while I was on my drive. And I want to make sure that it's the same animal because there's the same animal coming through. So I just want to make sure that it's for you. And I love how they come through when I'm preparing for a reading. And I go and I'm like, are you for me? And I'm just sitting there and I'm preparing and the same animal comes through. So I have a cat. Hold on. And then I go, I'm sorry. And then I start realizing what's going on. And then I go, were you preparing to hear from a cat today? And she goes, no. And then I go, I'm sorry. Just a minute. And then I get up and I go shut the door. And I'm visibly shaken. And I start crying. And I said, the reason I'm here. I said, I have a 24-year-old daughter and her cats got out. And I'm here to help her find them. And I said, this is one of her cats. And the lady goes, oh, no. And I said, yeah, I'm sorry. I thought it was for you. And I really did. I thought it was for her. I never put two and two together. I didn't think that the cat that was talking to me would have been my daughter's cat. I didn't look at who the cat was. I just knew I had a reading and the cat came through and it was for the owner. And I told her, I said, but that's why I'm here. And I said, sorry again. And I felt bad because this was her reading. I felt so bad. And I said, but that's how spirit works. And I said, I guess this is just how I said, and I tried to again, it's still flustering to me how that happened. And then I listened because I could hear Edith talking. And she said, that's my mommy. She said, you had to come take care of her baby, meaning me. Mommy had to come take care of her baby, meaning my daughter. And I'm meant to find her. And I saw that on my way up there. I was meant to find her cat. And it was just timing. It was the timing. Then I had to get out of mommy mode. And I had to go into mediumship mode again. Because, again, this was a paid reading. And I had to collect myself. And just like spirit does, an animal came through. And it was an Akita. It was a very, very fluffy dog. All I could think about was a dog I had seen before, but I had never watched the movie because I could not watch the movie. I'm not able to watch animal movies because they make me cry. And it was the movie, I hope I'm saying it right, Hachi, the Akita story. So I was telling this woman about this movie, and she said, yes. I don't remember if she's ever seen it, but I said, Spirit wants me to tell you about this dog and the meaning of this dog. And the reference was loyalty and the kindness we get from people, and how this dog always came back for the owner. And it was such a beautiful message. It was such a very beautiful message. And, people always wonder what happens during animal communication readings. And this was such a beautiful, beautiful reading. I remember it. And it's not just about proof. Like, hey, I had a red ball and I love to play with it. Or you always used to take me out for walks. It can be about proof. It can be about comfort. It can be about guidance. And it can be about healing. Then another dog came through, and they said they were a pretty princess pack dog. It was a Dachshund, and they had hair in their eyes all the time, and she could take that. Then another thing came through, which was so funny because my husband and I were just talking about this the other day before the reading. The reference was one of the Looney Tunes cartoons. My husband loves to watch Looney Tunes, but this is one of my favorite Looney Tunes cartoons. The dog was talking about how he loved to sit and watch cartoons with her grandchild. He was talking about a specific episode of Looney Tunes, but it was the one where it was Sylvester and Tweety and the dog, and they went out and played in the street. They both had either broken arms, broken legs, and they were in traction. They were in the hospital. But I remember that episode. They were always getting in trouble. It was so funny because the dog loved to sit and watch cartoons. The dog thought that it was the Beverly Hills Chihuahua. It thought it was a pretty princess. And it was just so sweet how this dog came through this reading and thought that it was this princess. And when I got home, I asked my 13-year-old if we could watch the Beverly Hills Chihuahua. And it was so neat to see this movie again, because it had been such a long time to watch it. Ooh. Talk to an animal that would sit with this woman's granddaughter who would watch cartoons. And I don't know if you've ever had an animal who would actually look up at the TV, but it just validates that they're there and they're watching it with us. You just don't know how much they catch, but apparently they do catch more than we think that they do. And this reading was so beautiful. I want to go back to what happened after this reading. I had another meeting with the book editor, and we ended up hiring the book editor. Then I went to a late lunch, early dinner with my daughter, and I couldn't say anything to her because I still had meetings. I couldn't break down. I had to keep the information to myself. I had to lie to her, essentially. We talked about her cats, all of that, and I just was very non-committal with my answers. But we had a very nice dinner, and I had to rush back for my students. It was very hard. It was very hard, but I had to be that way. And then I worked until later. It was dark, and I came out, and I told her, I said, honey, I need to let you know something. And I said, you know how I had that animal communication reading? And she said, yeah. And I said, well, when I was driving down, there was an animal talking to me. And I said, I want to show you this portion. So I showed her the beginning portion, and I didn't even have to get into much of it. She just knew that when I said there was a cat that was talking to me, and she paused it, and she said, is this how you're going to tell me that one of the cats died? And I said, yes. And she said, Edith? And I said, yes. And then she said, I already know. I was like, wait, how? And she said, last night, around 3:00 in the morning, she said, I felt her come in the room, and I felt her jump on the bed, and I just knew, which would track because remember, like I said, that Saturday, I told her I felt her spirit drifting. She was going, and she cried and everything. And so we were able to talk to her cat, find out what happened, and it gave her some peace, but it was hard. She still doesn't know. She doesn't know where the cat went, what happened to it, all of that. And she still has never found the other cat. I had to apologize to her for not being able to tell her earlier, but she understood. I told her I wouldn't have been able to work. I couldn't have functioned. I had to be here for you. And she understood that. And then she called her boyfriend who wasn't there, and it was just sad. It was very sad. And he had to come home early because he was just devastated, and it was just sad being there. But this is grief. Animals are babies, and you have to go through that. You have to go through those steps. You can't escape. You can't escape it. And they loved those cats so much. But to have the grief, have the guilt that, you didn't latch the door properly, to think that you were the reason. But one of them said they were never meant to be an inside cat. They loved being outside. Again, we don't know what happened, but this is the way life is. They thanked him for taking such good care of them. It's really, really hard having this gift. It really is. But it gave them comfort because they still would have been sitting here wondering what happened, grieving what happened, blaming themselves, all of this. And they were able to adopt another cat a few weeks ago. Her name's Love, and she looks just like their other cat, Casper. And Love is just so sweet, and she loves to be cuddled and cared for. And I'm not sure if they didn't find out what happened to their other cats, if this would have happened. And, this gift that I have is sometimes scary, is sometimes a burden, but sometimes it can bring comfort. It really can. And the fact that they were able to hear from Edith and let them know that it wasn't their fault and she wasn't going to come back. She wasn't going to come back in the house, and neither was the other cat. That cat loved being outside, loved climbing the trees. You weren't going to be able to contain that spirit. So, honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if, a few weeks down the line, they see that cat just playing and playing in the trees. I just see Boots just having a happy life outside. Some animals just are like that. They're free spirits, and they're with you for a brief amount of time, and they sure did love them. They were sure taken care of. So, but being there for, like Edith says, being there for your baby girl, and I was there when she needed me. I hated not being there for her during those few weeks when she couldn't find the cats, but I was there when she found out, and that was the time that she really needed someone, and she needed her mom. So I validated her love and reminded her that she didn't fail. Everybody makes mistakes. We've all left the door open. We've all, our animals have all gotten out, and we wondered, what if? And so, what happens? What happens if you lose an animal and you don't know what's happened to them? You still have to honor them. We've lost a cat. Her name was Trixie. We, to this day, don't know what's happened to her. I mean, it's been so long that she definitely has passed away. She's never come through during a reading, but we know that, she's had to have passed away. But we honored the time we had with her and how wonderful she was and the memories. But, every time we see her picture come up, we have a memory thing of pictures, and it hurts. It hurts more than any of the other ones because it's that unknown. And she loved to be outside. She loved to be outside while we were at work, and she just disappeared. Would it help knowing now what happened? Probably not. Honestly, probably not. Probably be more painful. So we just really honor the love that we had for her and the love that she had for us. And I know that she's up there, and when we go up there, we'll see her. And, Spirit, they deliver messages early, and it's really not to scare us. It's honestly not. It's to study us. Just like when I was driving up there, I didn't know that it was Edith. I didn't because I thought it was something else. And I'm glad I didn't, because I would have cried the whole entire way up there. Would have, scared my daughter. I couldn't have lied to her at that time. Couldn't have said, oh, I was crying for something else. She knew me too well. And then, the Akita's message of loyalty, tied everything together. Love and loyalty continue even after the goodbyes. And that's the thing. Our animals are loyal to us to the end. And for her to have that validation before I came and told her that, and she sensed her cat jump on the bed, that's what cemented it all. She just knew. She just knew that Edith had gone, and Edith just wanted to come and say goodbye. So I just want to close and say that, Spirit knew before I did. That cat's message reached me on the highway. And by the time I was at my daughter's house, I was ready to carry it with her. So if you've ever lost a pet, you know the ache does not fade quickly, but the bond doesn't fade either. They still will find a way to show up in symbols, in songs, and in quiet moments you can't explain. So if this story gives you comfort, please share it with someone else who needs it. And remember, loyalty doesn't end at goodbye. It just takes a new shape. So thank you for listening to the 11 Intuitions podcast. If you'd like more information or would like to know how to work with us, please visit our website at www.11intuitions.com. Thank you.